Cloning, human clones. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this as simple as possible for YouTube so I don't get banned or censored or like whatever, because terms and conditions. Back in 2011, do you remember those days when YouTube was like at the peak of like conspiracy stuff, and you would post a conspiracy video and you would have like 1 million views in like 24 hours? Back in 2011 on Facebook, and the note on Facebook is still online in public. I've actually accessed it recently, and the note of Donald Marshall is still online. Now, of course, you could say Donald Marshall back in 2011 was just a guy on the internet who wanted to be famous, so he came up with this whole thing about clones, right? But basically, he stated on Facebook, this guy called Donald Marshall, that he is a clone himself, that he was a normal guy who had the bad luck of finding himself in a so-called cloning station, like we see in the movies, and that the cloning station was run by Queen Elizabeth. And when Marshall was born, his family was already living in the cloning center, like these underground military facility cities. And he wrote a bunch of interviews, and like since 2011, like the whole of the internet was filled with interviews and like writings of supposedly to be himself. He never specifies exactly why his family lived in these so-called Illuminati palaces, but still, Marshall discusses on the matter that of the clones a lot. And if you type in on Google, you go on Google or like any like search engine, but of course people usually go on Google. You search for Donald Marshall cloning, and it has like over 200,000 different results, maybe even more today, who knows. Probably Google has censored quite a lot of them, but many of which weren't even written by Marshall himself, in honesty, because when you read, you actually see the differences in the texts. So every clone-related conspiracy blog, because there's a bunch of blogs related on cloning, they discussed this tale of Donald Marshall that came out in 2011, and it is very hard to find videos that makes mention of celebrity cloning without alluding to some aspect of this Donald Marshall thing. So it became some kind of like Donald Marshall is the master of like information about clones. The basic of the story is that there's like different versions, as it usually happens, because every person wants to make a name for himself. But basically it goes like this. So during his time at the cloning station, Marshall discovers that the entire operation is run by a collective of people consisting of the Freemasons, a group called the Vril Society, and a group called the Scientologists. And this secret society supergroup is what we know today as the Illuminati. So like the Illuminati comprises these like three groups. And members of the Illuminati, which naturally include all the G20 world leaders, they typically meet in subterranean bunkers, and the very same bunkers that, according to this guy, Donald Marshall, they house what has become a highly lucrative network of celebrity cloning farms. They clone celebrities there. That's what he says. And the cloning part of the operation, it started soon after the World War II ended, which that is really amazing. So in the 50s, right? Or in the late 40s. And Marshall explains in this Facebook post back in 2011, which is rather, when you read it, you don't know what to make of it, to be honest. It says like the political people started bringing movie stars and musicians there to hang around with them. They can control who remembers the cloning facility and who will remain oblivious, even though not remembering still damages you. So some of these clones were used for mere entertainment value, so like gladiator style wrestling bouts, sex, then rituals and all that stuff. That's what he says. And others are kept as precautionary measures should the clone's original ever need a new liver. And that's where the movies come in, because, there's a movie, sci-fi movie from 2005 called The Island. And in that movie, it's exactly about this, that, the originals, they have their clones, and the clones are being kept in a separate facility where they're being like taught that the world has ended. And whenever like the original needs an organ, they select one of the clones, and they're telling the clone that they're going to be taken to the promised place, like the promised land and stuff, religious kind of things, right? But yeah, the movie The Island Because that's the thing. You see, people say, "Oh, Donald Marshall and all that stuff with the clones is just like Illuminati conspiracy stuff on the internet. People want to make up just to feel important and stuff." But then you see the movies in Hollywood, like The Island, and like the series Westworld, and the TV series The 100, and all sorts of movies, and you say, "Wow! So what's what's the difference and the limits between reality and science fiction, right?" And yeah, so that one with the Island, that movie The Island, when I saw it the first time, and back in the year 2005, well, it was a groundbreaking movie, The Island. I think that society was not even prepared to understand that movie. And yeah, the movie goes about organ harvesting, and if you read the original note of Donald Marshall from 2011 on Facebook, it exactly speaks about that. And just like this thing with like the clones and stuff, and what the original, because the original is cloned, but then the clone is like a totally new person, right? Because even though he's a clone, but from the point when he's alive, he develops as a different person. And if you really want to keep someone under your control, well, you just dispose of the original copy of the original, and you put a copy in place. And I think clones have been around for like a long time. What can I say? I'm so like, I don't want to like say something because I don't know how. I'm just gonna leave it there, because then I could speak about Britney Spears, but I have to like work on that. Britney Spears, I mean, about Mona Lisa and Break the Ice, and that there was a website back in the day which was called Britney is Dead, and that was like, when I read that for the first time, I was like younger, I was like, whoa, man, like that's really some hard stuff. Eminem also, there's a story about Eminem, and who else was it there? Miley Cyrus as well, Hannah Montana. Actually Miley Cyrus, because she's so recent in the media and stuff, because she's still like Miley Cyrus, right? Man, those things like really, I know, it's just this thing with the clones. That's about just like, this is what was like introduction, right? Because I don't want to go into too much detail, because I don't know what's allowed to say and what not. So I'm just gonna keep it as if it was like a movie or like a comic book. But I'm gonna try to speak more about Miley Cyrus, Eminem, and Britney Spears, and other stuff with clones, and who knows, just maybe we're just gonna get to some conclusion. My thing is the following. So yeah, people can say, "Oh, you're just a lunatic, right? A conspiracy theorist." But what about the movies? Are the movies and the TV series just movies and TV series for entertainment purposes? Black Mirror has something with clones as well, and with synthetics. So Black Mirror, Westworld, The 100, The Island, and all, even anime, and like, heck, in like even the comic books like DC Comics and Marvel and stuff. So yeah, what's in the end entertainment, just for entertainment purposes, or is it like just something that actually tells you the truth, and people in the end they say, "Oh, it's just a movie, it's just a TV series, it's just a cartoon, it's just a comic book"? Do you see what I mean? I will see you guys next time.